My Sorare Euro 26 revamp is in full flow state with players such as Lucas Chevalier, Felix Carrera and Lucas Bergvall departing the account to raise over £150 of the King's finest to spend on an improved squad. Now obviously players such as Haaland, Mbappe, Yamal, Elise and so forth will be the prime targets if only we lived in a world where cold hard cash money flowed like the River Nile. So while strengthening is the main aim, there is both an air of optimism conjunctioned with realism here with what we can do. That's a wordy sentence. Starting with the Premier League, aka the EPL, and we still plan to use one of the classic goalkeepers here, meaning we're fully focusing on the outfield aspect of our lineup, where we've kept shiny Richarlison and decided to build the team around him, and that is perhaps with reservation, as there's a stereotypical risk that Tottenham will rotate their team a lot now they're in the Champions League, so it is important to buy the key players that are almost guaranteed to start in the EPL, and so far Richarlison has been one of those players. He's had a solid campaign, and partnering him in midfield will be the new addition, Xavi Simons, for about £28, and technically it's his Leipzig version of his card, so no idea what happens there once he's revealed as a Tottenham player on Sorare, but hey, we'll cross that bridge when the bridge gets built. But with having favourable fixtures coming up against Wolves and Leeds, I feel it's a great time now to add him to the group at a decent price. More expensive then, however, was his defensive teammate Romero, who actually kills our multi-club bonus at £42. But, that's money well spent, I believe, as he is easily one of the best scoring defenders in the EPL, not only as a threat in the air from corners, but also his AA is not too shabby to look at either, where we can see him often picking up 30 plus, thanks to a combination of defensive and passing actions. And then completing my new EPL setup was Jeremy Doku at £40, which may seem a bit spenny. He's certainly risen in value alongside his recent rise in form, but I feel like he's now almost locked his place in as a key part of that Man City team this season, and he looks absolutely dynamite going forward. If he can obviously combine that with an improved end product this season, then he could become the finished piece of the Sorare shaped puzzle in my heart, meaning that this EPL team for the weekend, with classic Pickford in goal at home to West Ham rounding out the team, should surely be capable of getting 360 points in the hot streak. That's the dream, right? And that's so fucking loud. Can you hear that? I was trying to talk about my team. Well, that's the team, okay? I think it's pretty nice, and I think it's going to do well. It's literally the neighbour. Literally the closest neighbour is mowing their lawn as I'm trying to record. That's probably the saddest moment of my life. Oh, they've stopped. Oh, they're back again. Literally about to start speaking. Okay, cool. La Liga, we've then made a few minor moves and adjustments to round out the team. Vinny and Eder were part of my market credit usage previously, but we've retained them in the squad as two quality Real Madrid players, and they'll actually be partnered by a third Real Madrid player, Fede Valverde, in his classic form. And I think I've done this in the right way, because naturally in your head, or in my head at least, I still attribute the most expensive in-season players being goalkeepers. So originally it didn't even cross my mind to use a classic midfielder. But then when you look at La Liga, the midfield options were quite thin on the ground. I've got Pablo Barrios here, but he is fixture clashing with the Real Madrid lads this weekend. So when we went to look at the scouting tool, we saw Pedri and Güler, and they came in a bit too expensive for my taste. Then got Tchouaméni and Frenkie de Jong, who are both, semi-respectable options at £25, but their scores left a little to be desired for that price point. So Valverde ended up looking like a solid, more well-rounded option out of all of the players, but he was still £50 of the King's finest, which is simply too much money at this point. But then enter my classic Fede Valverde card. Wow, that's like super fucking smart of me, as this allowed me to free up some cash where we went for a much cheaper in-season keeper. I've gone with Severo of Alaves for a little under a tenner. He has AA potential in terms of being a busier goalkeeper, and in general has a pretty favourable fixture list coming up, looking at Mallorca, Elche and Valencia in their next 3 games, so I think that's all fine. I find the goalkeeper choice a bit negligible really anyway. When going for the hot streaks, decisive outfield are probably the most important part, and a goalkeeper clean sheet is just a little leaderboard boost bonus on top of that. So for a £40 price difference that we've saved, I think we've done all right. And then finalising my La Liga team in the extra spot is Big Ant of Real Betis, now a permanent player at the club, and he is absolutely cooked since joining, reflected in a price of about £40. But instead of spending cold hard cash money on him, we actually utilised a massive trade in the accounts of 10 players in return for his in-season card. This is all players I was looking at offloading anyway in terms of my European reshape. And in comparison to the floor price, my players is about £43 compared to Anthony's £40. So we've technically overspent by, £3. Big deal, whatever. I don't fucking care, because selling these 10 players would be much more a hassle in terms of trying to recoup that £40 of their value. I'd probably have to undercut the market, accept a few lower offers here and there just to ship them out of the club. So all in all, I think we've come out on top with this trade. I'm happy with it. Obviously a shame to lose the injured Almada there, but he isn't quite clicking yet at Atletico. So this has all led to a strong La Liga team of mine where I've got Severa in net, Militao, Valverde, Vinicius and Antony outfield. They're fucking mowing the lawn again. Wow. It's fucking insane. It's fine. It's their lawn. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm being unreasonable. They can mow the lawn at this time. It's fine. I don't care. I'm not bothered by it. You think I'm bothered? You think I give a shit? You can fuck your dad. How about that? Fucking asshole. Sorry, I'm only kidding, guys. I don't know. But they can mow the lawn, okay? It's all cool. We're all good. Liga-n, here we go, and we don't like to talk about the Liga-n because this team is shite. We've not strengthened it. Andre will probably be injured anyway, so I really don't expect much at all, which will probably make it even funnier when all of my new teams fell and this team somehow ends up getting the hot streak. I guess that would be peak ironic comedy right there. And finally, the Bundesliga, which has ended up being a bit more straightforward and streamlined in terms of simply going for Dortmund and Bayern Munich outfield, and then going for a cheaper in-season goalkeeper in the form of Moritz to spare up some cash, allowing us to use a classic crusher outfield. That classic crusher being Harrison Kane, who partners alongside my most expensive purchase of the European revamp at about £80, Luis Diaz. And I think Diaz does well as a Bayern forward price-wise in comparison to Kane and Elise, who come in at over £250 each for their in-season cards. At a third of the price, I still feel like he has so much to offer as a decisive threat, especially if Bayern continue to rout teams 5 or 6-0. Yeah, maybe Kane and Elise score more hundos with numerous goals and assists, but Diaz can still chip in and push the 75 to 80 score benchmark with a single decisive in that grouping, and he seems to start every game as well looking at this, so I'm super happy to add him to the team. Mecha then completed the final transfer of the team, coming in fairly cheap at £13. Obviously not going to quite set the world alight in any stretch of the word, but in an attacking Dortmund team, he's shown he can play an important part going forward. Seems to have got the nod recently over Julian Brandt, and if he can keep hitting those 60s on the regular, he should give this team enough firepower to start smashing out some hot streak runs, which is what we all dream of. So those were the teams. We're going to do a time jump because the game week is complete. Let's see how I did. Woo! Alright, it's Saturday morning. Kind of hungover. I want to die, but this lineup gives me the will to live because we've done great here on the Friday night game. Luis Diaz with an assist, which wasn't an assist, and a goal that never got given as a goal. I feel like they should swap those around if you look at the replays there. But he's got a decisive, and that's all we wanted. And of course, the classic crusher Kane. He's there as my captain with a doublé at 88, 2 goals, and we're already on 229 points. We only need 131 points to hit that threshold. Things are going great so far. Can we fuck it up from here? If anyone can do it, it's me, so let's find out.
A few moments later.
Well, we fucked it up, that's right, despite getting a 77 and an 84 from my captain on the Friday night. And that's despite the fact that Diaz probably should have had another goal awarded as well. It still wouldn't have been enough because we were 24 points off of hitting the first threshold anyway. And that's mostly down to the fact that Moritz Nicholas, my brand new goalie to the club, on his first game, decided to concede 6 goals, which is a lot of goals for a goalie to concede. It just makes you stop and think, what else can you do after having such a good Friday night? Obviously, you could not buy a goalie who concedes 6 goals, but you can't really plan for that. And then you also look at Dortmund. They won 2-0, we did all the right things, but Anton only got 51 there, the clean sheet on his defensive attributes, doing a lot of the work and heavy lifting there. So that's disappointing to see. In the Mecha, did he even play a lot? He got 77 minutes, right? He had ample time to do the business, but the business was not done on this day. So unfortunately, we did in fact somehow fuck it up. So let's see how else we did in our other European teams. I'll be honest here, in the Premier League, it did not go much better. Again, Jeremy Doku being my first player to play and got an 88. So I thought we were well on our way. All the new signings were working in sync. It was going to be a fantastic weekend of hot streak action for the Royalivi fans, but unfortunately Tottenham decided to go full Tottenham and just play atrociously against Wolves. Wolves with 0 points in the Premier League before that game, by the way. They drew 1-1 thanks to a last-minute equaliser from Paulinho. But it's just like, you do the research, it all looks fucking fantastic on paper, and then it doesn't pan out as I guess you thought it would. You know, football isn't played on paper, I guess, unless you count grass as paper, because it's like from trees and shit. You know, it's all photosynthesis, all goes back into one at the end of the day. But hey, you fuck Tottenham is what I'm trying to say there. And then Liga-n. Fucking terrible. Moving on. Didn't expect much there anyway. La Liga. Now, here we actually did have some chances. 274 points from the main team and even 300 points from the backup team, right? So we were close in places, I suppose, but the cigar was not to be smoked this day. The backup team actually being only 60 points off is a shame, with Alonso, who wasn't even expected to play. I think only 40%. But he did start, and he could have got a good score there on a favourable fixture. It wasn't meant to be, and they actually lost the fixture, so I guess it's not that favourable, was it really? What the fuck am I talking about? But Oblak had a tough game against Real Madrid. Barrios, unfortunately, in 5 goals, did no decisives. Sergi Altimira seems to be a European League player for Betis. He's only coming off the bench, but we were still close. It's the main team you got to look at and think, fuck, that's annoying, because Vinny Jr., you know, got an assist there. Little last man tackle or goal line clearance, one of those for Eder Militao. Yeah, a little last man tackle there, despite conceding 5 goals. So they actually got good scores. Obviously, hugely let down by the classic of Valverde there, having an error leading to a goal. But you got to remember, this team's got 3 Real Madrid players in, and they lost 5-2 this game week. That's not going to happen a lot of times this season. So all in all, I'm not too despondent about this team. Obviously, Severa and Antony scores weren't great as well, but, you know, they only lost 1-0. Really, a clean sheet's a possibility there. And Betis won 2-0. Did Antony play the whole game? Yeah, he played the whole game, just wasn't meant to get decisive that game. Still got okay AA score. So you know, I'm not, like, writing this team off or all doom and gloom about it. It was a tough game for Madrid, which makes up the bulk of the team. It's just fucking annoying. Am I allowed to say that? It's fucking annoying. You know, I'm not going to moan about the game or say I deserve more, but I'm moaning about the game, and I'm going to say I deserve more. Fuck this shit. It just didn't pan out on this first game week. But if we go and check the profit and loss tracker, you know, there's still going to be a lot of game weeks to go. We're 13 game weeks in, and we've got £2.76 worth of essence. But, you know, there's going to be another 50, 60, 70, 80 game weeks left of the season, then the World Cup. You know, these players can hopefully get back that £521 deficit right there. We don't love to see that in the red. We'd prefer that to be 0, and that's what we're going to aim to do. I think we're on the right tracks here. We just need it to click a bit, and when it does click, then good times will be had. But until then, I guess I can just go and fuck myself, and I'll catch you next time, because I love you.